Yo,
Techs and ads coming to you live on videos this week.
what's happening?
For those of you who haven't seen our ugly heads before, this is us.
Yeah,
Welcome to another Thursday night update. Really good time to be updating as well, as Bitcoin seems to be having this move to the downside. Admittedly, BTC, I did think we would be headed down. I didn't think as much. We'll get into ETH in just a moment. Looks to be making a nice little recovery against BTC, at least in the short term for ETH/USD. Really putting a lot of weight on ETH/USD. I was just saying to one of our guys in the inner circle, Dory, I had exited my positions at just around 210. I had been in an ETH long since 200, so I'm glad I exited out of that. But ads BTC, this could be the start of the move that we've been predicting for a couple of weeks now, at least since just post halving, where we spoke about blow off tops to 10.2, which we didn't quite get. But nonetheless, we weren't expecting too much more above 10.2. 10.5 was a potential short-term target for this interim move here. But as we said to the guys in the inner circle, Wednesday nights, Thursdays tend to bring a lot of volatility in the last few weeks. That's exactly what we're seeing again today. So take us through your thoughts, ads. What are we seeing on BTC at the minute?
I've been updating the Discord pretty much daily and trading view every second day as well, Ty. But my thoughts haven't changed if you've been paying attention to that. I've been looking at the high that we had on the 8th, 9th of May, where we just missed that supply block at around 10.1, and then since then we've just been making some lower highs just to the right here, and looking like that could be the catalyst for a further move down towards that first zone that we're interested in at 8.8.
Yeah, and what I've been making a habit of doing lately on the exchange where I trade is purposefully putting some bids lower than what I thought things might tend to find resistance on. So for example, I've got bids at that demand zone. I've got bids slightly higher to that just in case we get front run. I am pretty heavy USDT at the moment, a short amount a small amount of BTC. I've been in USDT admittedly for a little bit now, with the exception of holding a bit of ETH, which obviously, like I said, I bought spot at 200, sold at 210 as we started heading back down. BTC, I've always got a little bit of BTC just sitting there, that I'm not 100% concerned about. USDT is my main focus at the moment. So one thing that I've really learned this month, and ads, I'll give you credit to this, and something that I haven't done a great deal, and we touched on this on Tuesday night inside the Inner Circle, was taking less trades but more quality trades. For myself, I went through a phase a couple of months ago, and we did share this with the guys in the Inner Circle, where I was scalping a lot. First time that I'd really dove quite heavily into scalping, and while it was profitable to a degree, it wasn't conducive to the right mental state that I was wanting to be in, constantly being in front of the charts and looking at 5, 10, 15, 30-minute charts, and actively needing to sit in front of the screens in order to be able to get 6, 7, 8, 10 trades a day. So stepping back from that and really exercising a lot more patience. And what we say to the guys inside the Inner Circle is that we let the trade setups come to us. And admittedly, I probably wouldn't have been so heavy in USDT in the past, or USDT packs, whatever it is that you might want to be in. But knowing our TA and expecting a little bit of volatility today on the Wednesdays and the Thursdays, but looking at more proposed moves to the downside than a shoot up towards 10.5. I was happy to sit in this position and to really exercise patience and really just take a few good quality trades over the course of the month. Now, I lie slightly when I talk about BTC trades. That yes, I'm pulling back quite a lot from that. Alt trades at the moment, which we'll get into at the moment, that's just been ridiculous, and it's been really, really easy to get some very profitable alt trades, which we'll talk about in a second. But for anyone, and if you want to search Cold-Blooded Schiller on Twitter, really good guy, trying to get him on the podcast at the moment. He's a British guy that scalps a lot. And he posted a really phenomenal thread on Twitter about 4 or 5 days ago that spoke about how obsessed we get as traders with being on our phone, being in front of the screens. We're hanging out with loved ones, which admittedly my fiance will tell you very much that you're spending time with loved ones, you're on your phone. You wake up straight away, you're on your phone. You're out with friends and family, you're on your phone, checking your charts. For anyone that's of that mindset, I cannot tell you how refreshing it's been to step back from that, trust my TA more, and check the charts a couple of times a day. So for this, we're fortunate that things tend to go the way that we had hoped at the moment. Admittedly, I'll probably pick up a little bit of BTC at this level, because how could you not? But ultimately, looking at that demand zone down towards I am looking between 9,150 and probably 8,8 for this move, ads. And I'm sorry to take you on a bit of a long-winded journey there, but that's something that I've found pretty powerful for my mental state over the last couple of weeks. So sorry to hijack that, ads, but yeah, that's definitely where I'm looking at the moment on BTC.
Yeah, absolutely. And you could probably see that descending structure a little bit better when you scroll out to the daily time frame, when you've got that higher high there, and you could very, very easily tell that descending structure there from the 8th of May to now. And we've been teetering along this trend line for a while now. If you scroll into the 4 hour, you could see a little bit more where we're pushing above and below it, and there's a real struggle between the bulls and the bears. But ultimately, Ty, I think we're going to see that that 9,150 to 8,8 range be very, very relevant, probably within the next couple of days.
Yeah, and it sort of makes sense that we're getting held up temporarily. Like, I'm not going to call it like on Tuesday night session, I realized that there are lines that can be drawn. Look at that. So obviously that's the sort of the next area I'm looking for a hold up there at around the sort of 9,350 mark, where we kind of had this temporary double bottom move, if you want to call it that. I wouldn't really call it that, but that double wick just there. So looking to see how that penetrates from there. And then this is where I'm looking next towards this sort of 8.8 level. Between there and 9,150 is where I am starting to layer in my buys, because as we've said a number of times inside the Inner Circle, don't try and catch the bottom of this move. Don't try and catch knives. That's why supply and demand is so brilliant. And one thing, again, to go on a little bit of a tangent, one of our members was talking about trying to identify trade setups on daily time frames. And as we said to him, well, don't just solely focus on the daily time frame for entries. Trust your TA on the smaller time frames, whether it be the 1 or the 4 hour, because the move that you could catch by taking the risk, by getting the trade on the 4 hour when it doesn't look so great, but the daily looks quite promising, it probably exceeds the loss or the trade that you might miss had you waited so long for confirmation. So dollar cost average, layer in your buys if you're confident in your TA. 889150 certainly is an area where I'm looking, and admittedly I am looking at purchases there. It's not financial advice, but that's just my TA. So trust yours, and don't just try and catch one single dollar amount because you might end up kicking yourself.
Very good.
Perfect.
Advice.
All right. So that's BTC for the minute. We just quickly, before we go on to the other alts, let's have a look at some alt trades that we've done this week inside the inner circle. And the reason why we spoke about, yes, it was a little bit of I wouldn't say a clickbaity, but a little bit of a sort of a joke title to this week's episode. Could it be alt season? Well, yes, it is, but it's not. We don't see these profound, huge 2017 alt seasons that we've seen back in the day. And we keep saying that we're seeing these little mini alt seasons when BTC is having moves out, moves to the downside rather, or consolidates. We're now seeing alts flourish, and that means that people are pulling money out of BTC. They're trading alts to accumulate Satoshis before putting it back into Bitcoin to continue that, whether it be a run up or short or whatever they're doing. And you can see that quite clearly on the charts now. When things start pulling back pretty aggressively from alts, you know that there's an impending BTC move coming up.
Yeah.
And I said that to the guys in the inner circle like 3-4 hours ago. I said, hey, alts are pulling back here. There's something coming up on BTC. And the same thing again, when you see alts running, you often see BTC pulling back. When you see alts pulling back, you see BTC sort of running. So it's a pretty direct correlation at the moment, and an easy way to see upcoming moves. So this week has been phenomenal. If you trade alts in the right way, you can do very well in a very short period of time than what you would having to try catch moves on BTC. So Link, admittedly, I did not get this one, but as I did say to the guys in the inner circle, and as we said a moment ago, trust your TA and layer in buys. Don't try and catch exact levels. So admittedly on on Link here, the 2 blue lines represent some macro uptrend lines that are being very well respected. We saw that we had a Kumo, potential Kumo edge to edge playing out. We've got a little bit of a C clamp forming here on the Ichimoku, indicating that if we get a bounce from our conversion line, it was likely that we're going to get a move up here towards the baseline. And the W formation, that's my absolute bread and butter. I love that formation. And we ended up bouncing from the conversion line, which is phenomenal. And then the result of that was pretty promising. We took 8.73%, and this was a macro downtrend line from freaking ages ago. That was respected really, really well. So I think even since then we pulled back slightly, and this 42878 was a volume level that we talk about, and we trade quite a bit inside the inner circle. So a great trade on Link for that one. On the next one from this week as well was ICX. That was ludicrous, the run that we got on ICX. Again, a really clear edge-to-edge trade here playing out. And as I said to the guys here, it was likely that we would get a small pullback. I said you could take the risk and enter now, as I did, or you could wait for it to come back down and potentially test the bottom of the Kumo before an edge-to-edge, as we often see. We see moves like this before moves to the upside where we retest the bottom of the Kumo, and we were getting an impending TK cross there. So a lot of signs pointing towards a nice breakout. 23% we took on that one. I exited at the trend line, so I took, I think, 21% on that, and it has continued to run from sort of from this point. We might expect a 200 extension move on that. And why do I not move my fibs? Well, we talk about that inside the inner circle. You have to join us if you want to find out why and how we trade with Fibonacci. So that was a great move. Steamroller giving an oversold signal from now. Our volume indicator, again, giving us that we have tapered off a little bit on volume, and a Stotch divergence there as well. So a fantastic trade on ICX. That was my best trade this week by far. And another one, ADA. This was a great trade as well. As I said to the guys here, I said, we've got, again, this is probably my second bread and butter formation. We've seen this formation so many times.
Yeah.
And I compare this to ZRX and BAT back in early January. And again, if you're recognizing here as well, W formation within this triangle, this was a really easy setup. As I said to the guys, 38 consolidation is what I would expect, and then a move to the upside through the our downtrend line, potentially test the downtrend line, and then another move back up. And the result played out pretty well. So that was an easy 9%. I took profit there at the 78 extension and expecting some moves around here, which I've labeled inside the inner circle. We also had a couple other ones as well. ONT, Wabi was another one that we traded this week. BNB was one that we shared. OMG was another one that we shared on Tuesday night. So all in all, a really profitable week this week. Very, very happy with those alt setups. So when these alt setups start to occur, you really need to capitalize on them. You cannot waste time by saying, oh, I'm going to enter here, I'm going to enter there. Take the damn trade, trust your TA, and 100%. Have a go. Have a 100%. Go. Have a go, because these alts are moving so fast, and in comparison to where we were a number of years ago, and BTC is still relatively low market cap for a lot of these coins, and it takes very little liquidity to move them high to the upside like that, and a lot of them run on FOMO, like Theta, for example, is going spastic right now. So there are so many alt setups at the moment that we've posted inside the inner circle, and for the guys watching in the inner circle, I hope you're reaping the benefits of that. All right, let's have a look at ETHUSD, ETHBTC, and then we'll call it a night.
ETHUSD.
Let's look at ETHUSD at the moment. And the reason why we're looking at ETHBTC is because that's the indicator that we're using for the strength of alts at the moment.
So ETHUSD, I did outline a number of levels that I had in mind for ETHUSD tie within the inner circle.
That was respected really well, wasn't it?
Yeah. So the first one, obviously, this level here, which is 206. That wick was the catalyst for this level to be broken, and sure enough, not long after, we did move to the next one down. So I'm looking at this wick also moving through that, but there is some liquidity here to get through first time before we test this $191 or $192 mark again for Ethereum. So we'll see what that brings, but I do think we'll get there, honestly.
Spewing, because I had a buy set at 201.50 on F. Damn it! And I cancelled it today when I sold all my Ethereum. That's spewing anyway.
So I'm looking at this level here at $191 because we've got some decent amount of liquidity. We've got a decent push out of that zone to create that zone structure there, and then we have our retest just to the right of that, testing that zone before we did push up and move up out of that price range. So I think. Personally, I do think we can get back there quite easily and create some of that downward structure for ETH. If we look at on the daily, it's not significant. If we look at on the daily, like we've had such a phenomenal run from about $100 all the way to 206 where we're sitting at now. But pulling back to about the 192 mark is not out of the question at all.
Yeah, and the thing that we get as well, and speaking with Zoran Cole this week, if you haven't, we haven't really said just as of yet, but what Zoran Cole said during his $1 million ETH trade, he said it's very boring, and it's not glamorous, but you've just got to sit in front of the screens, and you've just got to watch the screens, unfortunately, because you see this formation play out time and time again. We can see it here where we get these big wicks to the downside, a nice buy up, another, and this sort of M formation. Again, we could very much sort of see that sort of move where we get a nice buy up, we get a nice little run to the upside. People thinking that's the bottom, they buy into this position, they got their long set, and then they slam them again. So that's why it's so important, particularly on this 4-hour time frame. You could use the 1, for example, but looking at your indicators here, CCI, yes, it's oversold, but RSI holds more weight, indicating we've still got more moves to the downside that could be present here as well. Yes, we've got a nice buy up, but this could just simply be people placing buys in order to catch those little stink bids, like what I was talking about, those little cheeky buys. There's enough liquidity in this zone for buys, which is indicated by that demand zone. We get bought up and then we just blew. So typically what I will do is I will often short a retest of a level like this. So we go up, I wait for a confirmation, and then I'll end up shorting a level, and then I'll short it back down to where we went down previously. And you've seen that time and time again, this area, this this, 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 this. So, it's a pretty clear formation. You've just got to know when it presents itself. But again, that could very much be wrong, but you got to trust your TA sometimes.
100% you do.
All right, let's have a look at FBTC, and then we're going to very quickly talk about our most recent episode of the Trade Hacker podcast and how you can learn to trade Ichimoku like one of the absolute best guys in the game. An absolutely phenomenal episode of the Trading Group podcast.
ETH BTC, really doing quite the opposite of what the USD pairing is. Yeah. And then we've got a number of levels that we need to be aware of. Obviously, we had our bounce off the demand at around 20,700 sats. The next one that I would be very, very inclined to see if we get there, Ty, would be roughly around 22,800, where we've got this break or pause in the market, and then our retest just to the right here, Ty. So that seems the most logical supply zone from where we are. If we zoom out to the daily, we definitely have the room on these indicators to get there. So it's going to be an interesting one. We might slide around this level for a little while to cool off some of these 4-hour indicators and maybe even pull back a little bit even to the 38.2 before another leg.
Yeah, and if you chuck your EMA fan on there as well, we've really been sharing a lot of our moving average knowledge with our guys as of late, along with a lot of different things. But looking at our EMA fan at the moment, we are sitting right on the 100 EMA. Yeah. So as I said to the guys this morning in our analysis of FBTC, looking at the 200 EMA as the next level of resistance, but we're seeing this cluster now of moving average resistance. We've seen the 10 and the 20, or the 9 and the 21 now consolidating. The 50 and the 100 are starting to consolidate and group together like a spring. We're expecting a move from there, similar to what you would see with Bollinger Bands when they start to tighten up. And then once we get a move to the upside, we test this 200 MA, and then we can break and close in range above the 200 MA in the entire MA cluster. Things will be looking bright for FBTC. And of course, we've got a pretty healthy uptrend at the moment there too, being respected quite well.
Yeah, exactly. I need to draw that one in to get a better idea on where we're sitting. There it is there.
And this is what I mean by quality of trades: buying off demand and looking to exit at supply. That's a one trade for how much percent adds if we get there. Let's not say we're going to get there, but if we get there.
If we get there, that's 10%.
Not a bad trade over the course of a week or two.
Yeah, 7 days.
Not bad. You can cruise, sit back, let that roll, and set your positions. Exactly. It's so good for your mental health. All right, so that's it for for everything this week. If you want to know more about the alts that we are sharing, jump into the Discord, unitytradinggroup.com, and there are free entries to the Discord. We're sharing a lot more inside the free Discord at the moment. We shared ICX, we shared ADA the other day. You would be 10% and 23% up respectively if you had taken that, and we share that because we want to give back a little bit more to the community as the BTC moves and the BNB moves. I think we shared as well. So yeah, we've been pretty generous inside the Discord this week, and we'll continue to do so. Next, Crypto Says ads. If you go to the chat there, I've just sent you the link. If you want to know how one of the best guys in this game trades with Ichimoku, finding pivot points on BTC 5 months in advance, how he found the pivot point for the 300% Matic move late last year, Crypto Says is the guy. 60,000 followers on Twitter. Can't be wrong. So that's a phenomenal episode with Crypto Says where we go through. He teaches us the sort of the premise behind his Ikagai waves geometry and particle system, the most unique trading system and we're not affiliates of this by any means. We just share what we find really good value in. And the way he uses Garn and Ichimoku and time and pivots is exceptional, and he explains it really, really well. And we get an hour video there where he shows us the premise of it, how he picked the 3-2 bottom on BTC using the Fibonacci golden ratio from the 19K top, shows us how he uses the standard settings on Ichi as opposed to the crypto settings and why he believes the crypto settings are flawed, gives us trade setups on Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, Keeping in mind, we also recorded this back in January, and a lot of the things that he has shown have played out. He shows us a cipher pattern, or a Gartley pattern rather, that he did like almost a year ago, that has played out to the dollar. It's phenomenal. This guy really knows his shit, and he's an absolute gentleman to boot. So highly encourage you to go listen to that, unitytradinggroup.com/crypto says. And next week we should have our episode with Zoran Cole, where he also gives us a video breakdown and deconstruct his $1 million ETH trade from last year. And we really dive into the mental side of trading and the psychological side from a full-time millionaire, 24-year-old trader. So not a bad couple of episodes coming up on the Trade Hacker podcast.
Thank you for joining us.
Perfect. Hope you enjoyed that. For more, as I said, unitytradinggroup.com. Come into the Discord, have a chat, and let's make some money. And look forward to seeing you next Thursday.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.